Good evening and welcome to the June 11th, 2018 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. In accordance with open meeting law, I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded and ask if there's anyone in the audience also recording. Seeing none, could we please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sharon, do you know if anyone signed up for public comment? The first item we have is public comment, and there's no one signed up for that. Under public hearings and presentations, we have a change of manager for the 99 Restaurants of Boston LLC at 793 Southbridge Street. Is the applicant here? Good evening. If you could join us up at the table, please.
Make a motion, we open the hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Good evening. If you can just have a seat. Please give us your name and tell us a little bit about what the changes are that are happening. And just speak into the microphone, please.
My name is Krenar Jupaj. We have a change of management. I was a general manager prior to this restaurant, one of the Worcester stores. So I recently took over the 99 down the street. The manager that was there went to another 99. And so nothing changes but the managers.
Okay, so you're familiar with the operation of the 99?
I've been with the 99 for about 13 years.
Okay, and you're familiar with their license and the requirements of their license?
So I've held a license before in the city of Worcester.
Okay, so with your Auburn license, there are specific conditions on your license, so I would just ask that you familiarize yourself with those.
Absolutely.
Do board members have any questions? Is there any public comment?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The hearing is now closed. Is there a motion regarding the application?
Make a motion that we approve the change of manager to Krenar Jupaj. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you for coming in. You're all set.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too. The next item we have is a 7 p.m. hearing, hearing on a petition by National Grid and Verizon New England for a joint pole location at Bryn Mawr Avenue. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Is there a representative here?
Yes.
Good evening.
Hi.
If you could just give your name for the record, please.
My name is Kim Tavalai-Mola.
Thank you, Kim. And can you tell us a little bit about this? I know we have two, but we're on the Bryn Mawr one right now. If you could talk about that and why the need to do this?
Yes. The Bryn Mawr, 264 Bryn Mawr Avenue residential service, they're going underground to a pole, and they have to have a pole on the same side of the street in order to have an underground service. They can't pass under the road, so a new pole needs to be installed.
Do members have any questions on this one? Mr. Holstrom?
I guess, yes, through the chair, just as as you explained it, where the new pole is going to be across from the existing, you said there's going to be underground?
On their property, on the homeowner's property, it's
On the new-
underground. To
Where the new pole is, on that side of the street?
Right, they
So you're
always,
not going to be opening up the street?
no, we never do that. That's what most of these new pole installs are.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that, because it sounded like there was going to be something crossing the street, so I wanted to be sure that, we weren't going to be opening the street. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Berthium?
Is that the new house that's being built on the lake there? Is that the 260, is it 264? I don't think there's a lot of room between that front banking and the actual street or sidewalk.
There's an existing sidewalk.
Yeah, well, I'll open it up to public comment in just a minute.
Yes, that's the house.
That is the house, okay.
Yes.
It's, because that's kind of a little bit of a corner, so I'm just concerned of so is the pole going to be able to be put on town property? And is there enough town property there?
Yes, there's a stake there now telling you exactly where the location will be.
Okay, and it's not going to upset the sidewalk or anything there?
No, no, I am here for somebody else, but I don't believe that that's in the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other board comment? Are there any abutters here on Bryn Mawr Ave? Is there anyone who wants to speak to this? No?
The owner.
Oh, do you want to speak to it?
No,
Okay.
said it more or less.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any additional comment? Is there a motion to
Motion to
close the
close the
hearing?
hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. The hearing is closed. Is there a motion regarding the application?
Make a motion that we approve the poll location as requested.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you. We still have another one. Before we go on, I just want to make note that we have a representative from the Worcester Telegram and Gazette here who is making an audio recording of this meeting. Okay. The next item we have is a hearing on a petition by National Grid and Verizon New England for a joint pole location at Prospect Street, Auburn, Mass. Enclosed is a petition and location. This is a 7 p.m. hearing. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. So, again, if you could just tell us a little bit about this one.
Sure, this is another new residential service, and they are going underground to a pole. And the reason that we need a new pole, even though the poles are on the same side of the road as their house, is because you can't have any underground trespasses or overhead trespasses over somebody else's property. So there's no pole within their property lines. That's why we're putting an additional one there, so that they can bring their service to that pole.
Okay. So I guess my only question is on the map, Baker Road.
Yes, that, I noticed that today as well. The engineer who's out right now for surgery, it looks like he was using that as a template. That's Prospect Street.
I was going, because, yeah,
Yes.
okay. So Baker Road, just for the record, we're going to correct the map on page 4 in your packet, where it says Baker Road. That should read Prospect Street. Okay. Are there any questions from board members? Are there any abutters here? Is there any public comment? Is there, go ahead,
Quick
Mr.
question.
Holster.
So now this is 2-in-1 meeting that are going underground, and is this the start of something new where, are people going to start requesting their wires to go underground, or is that available, or is it only new construction, or that we're starting to go underground now?
It's basically up to the homeowner. If they went overhead and they're too far back, if they're more than 100 feet back from the pole and they're going overhead, they have to put a pole on their property, which we have to get an easement for. So most of it is because they don't want to see all of this electrical work. So that's why they go underground. But there is no, we don't suggest, it's all up to each individual customer, how they want to go.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else? Is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The hearing is now closed. Is there a motion regarding the application?
Make a motion that we approve the poll location as requested.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. I would entertain a motion because we have people in the, thank you so much for coming. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a policy of the board that someone be here, so we appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Okay, So we have some people in the audience for some of these items, so I'll entertain a motion to move up Agenda Item 5A, approve and vote and sign the note for the issuance of short-term bans dated...
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. So you have information in your packet dated, marked 5A, but I will turn it over to the town manager to tell us a little bit about this.
Thank you to the chair. This is an item for the town to issue a ban, which is a bond anticipation note, a short-term note on an 84-day rate. It would become effective June 20th, and it would have a payable date of September 14th. The reason for this, it's in the amount of $230,624, is to cover an anticipated revenue deficit related to the construction costs of the middle school. We are still waiting to close out the final middle school project, so for all school projects under the Mass School Buildings Authority, there's always a 5% holdback of the final payment until the final audit and everything is completed on the state end. We are awaiting word from the state to see if that final approval from MSBA will take place this summer. We're trying to get on their August agenda. We will not know if we're going to be on that until June 20th. So in anticipation of that, just to cover, we're taking out a very short-term note, and then we can convert this to permanent financing upon final payment from MSBA.
Are there any questions?
No.
There's a recommended motion on the second page of that item here. Where it says voted.
Okay.
Which one should I?
Yeah, up the top part, though.
Right, that's where it says voted.
Yeah.
Someone would make a motion. I move.
Yeah, I move the clerk of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Auburn, Massachusetts, the town, what's that?
Just this part here, we need where it says voted.
Oh, okay, voted. Okay, I'm sorry. That the sale of the $230,624 bond anticipation note dated June 20th, 2018, the note to East Hampton Savings Bank at the price of $230,624 is hereby approved and confirmed. The note shall be payable on September 14th, 2018, and shall bear interest at the rate of 1.94%. And that's dated June 11th, 2018, today's date.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. So the town clerk is in attendance and the town treasurer is in attendance. Do you need to witness us at signing these at a public meeting, I believe? So bear with us for a minute while the board signs these required documents. Hi, Marion.
This is the first one. This is the bond itself.
Okay.
The note itself, I should say. Hi.
And I can pass them along.
Yes. And the next one is the certificate of the town clerk.
Thank you, Doreen.
The next one is the certificate and covenant, and there's 3 of those, actually.
Okay.
And that's it. And there's 2 more of those, the same one.
Same, okay. These last 3 are the same document, just need 3 copies. Thank you. Anything
Thank you.
else? Okay.
No, that's it.
Thank you. I don't see anyone for this. And then at the same time,
I'm going to take this next, to see, to stay in order. Are we all set? All set? Great.
Thank you.
So because we do have people waiting, I'd entertain a motion to move up Board of Selectmen item, general item 5C, the Bryn Mawr Estates Phase 2 bond authorization.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. And I believe Matt is here to tell us what this is about. Matt, if you want to come up, please, and just tell us what happened here. I think it's pretty explanatory in the letter, but just give us a quick overview. You're both welcome to join us. Good evening, Mr. Coyle.
Good evening. Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Well, I'll just summarize what's happening here. There were, Bryn Mawr Estate subdivision has been going on for quite a long time. It's been going on since 1966. It was originally approved by the Kamasi family. This project encompassed several roads within that area, but ultimately in 2007 was purchased by Bryn Mawr Estates LLC, who posted a bond in the amount of $82,000 and eventually lost control of the project, and the bond was seized by the town in 2011. The bond has since accrued interest and is in the amount of approximately $85,000, and it was for the purpose of reconstructing or bringing to public road standards the section of Phase 2, which is from the bottom of the hill of Briarcliff, where it starts to go up across to the top, up to approximately address number 33, I believe. And the planning board voted at a recent meeting to recommend to the selectmen the approval of the expenditure of these funds to bring the road to public road standards, and I believe the DPW has some more information regarding the ongoing construction of that.
Great.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Coyle.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Earlier this spring, we started construction on our townwide projects, and Briarcliff was one of the projects that we had slated for reconstruction. We've since began construction, since the approval by the planning board to move forward with the construction of the project. We did delay several years, mainly because the construction had moved so slowly with the houses. We didn't feel as though it was wise to rebuild that roadway and then have construction vehicles travel over it for several years, basically destroying it. I think they're at a point where there's probably 2-3 houses remaining to be constructed. So we felt at this point would be a good time to begin the construction. We did find that very poor soils, so we had to excavate down approximately 3 feet to remove the unsuitable material. I prepared an estimate back when this vote from the planning board was made back in 2011, that the cost was about $112,000 to do the reconstruction. And I think we have 85,000 or so with the interest. So to date, I think the work, which is the new subgrade, the gravel, the binder is now in place. The sidewalks and berm are in place. What we need to do is just finish top course material, binder course material, several trees, and I think there's 2 streetlights. We would, at this point, wait till next year to top it, because as any subdivision, typically you would wait 1 winter before you would top it, because this is actually an old subdivision. We're trying to construct it the same process and same standard as we would require a developer to build it as well. So it's at a condition where it's certainly in much better condition, passable, binder grade, manholes are flush, and we would anticipate it go through 1 winter. We would bring it before town meeting to have it approved prior to topping the roadway, because we wouldn't be able to expend town funds on a private road. So because this section is still considered private, we would be either in October, annual town meeting, or special town meeting, or next May, come before the town for acceptance. And then once accepted, we would move forward with the top course material and finalizing the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Mr. Holstrom.
To the chair, just so I understand, Bill, is that from Regis Drive and up, or is it on the lower side of?
It's just beyond Regis. There's 1 driveway after Regis. It's just beyond that 1 driveway up to the first sharp bend. It's about approximately 600 feet.
All right, great, thank you.
It's not the entire loop.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure I knew where it was, but it's just above Regis Drive, so I know. what you're
Yes,
talking about now.
yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else? I know there's been a lot of ongoing issues over the years. Has all of this work that the town has done helped with the flooding issues that were happening to existing homeowners?
It has gotten much better. I can say that when I first came to the town about 10 years ago now, it was
Bad.
awful.
Yeah.
Some of the photos I have, the sediment that was running down the road is something that
Yeah.
you never want to see in a construction site.
Right.
And since then, with new contractors, they've done a better job controlling the site. And now that roadways are paved, properties are stabilized, loam seeded, it's been much better. I think the last major event was last year. There was some flooding, but even major compared to what it was,
Yes, I
was
remember.
nothing compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, so ongoing work like this is only going to help with issues like that?
And we've added curb inlet stones to allow additional water to go into the catch basins. So we've taken a lot of precautions. I think at this point, any flooding would be something that would be what you would expect on any roadway if you had a 20-year storm event or a 100-year storm event. So you can always get flooding on the bottom of a hill, but the situation is much better than it was years ago.
Great, thank you. Question, Mr. Berthium?
So the estimated 112,000 that you had back then, is that including the top grade, or and has that increased? Because it sounds like you guys had to do some extra work there.
Yes, it does include the top grade. I don't think we're going to exceed that number. I'm hoping that we might actually come in just under that. I think we're going to exceed the 85,000. I'm expecting probably another 15 to maybe 20,000 additional. So I think we'll be under the 112, but it'll be close.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Does someone want to make a motion regarding this?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to authorize expenditure of the funds to perform the Phase 2 road improvements, Briarcliff Drive, as specified in the approved plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr. Coyle, if you could wait, Matt, I believe we're done with you.
Okay.
I don't think we have any other agenda items for you. So, Mr. Coyle, you can stay, and I'll entertain a motion to move up agenda item 5E, the deficit spending for us.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to vote? And Mr. Mitchell, if you can now join us. So the agenda item is a vote to authorize authorization to deficit spend for sewer main break on Southbridge Street Court in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
And
And
tell us
I will
what
I'll
happened.
let Mr. Mitchell present this to you.
Yeah, back at it again. Going back to the evening of June 5th, I received a call from my foreman that had been in contact with one of the Auburn Water District workers that received a report that there was water bubbling out of the ground. The two of them went out and investigated, and unfortunately, we found out that it wasn't clean water, but it was dirty water. It was one of our force mains, the actual pressure line that comes from Holstrom Court pump station, that carries it up over the top of Packagug Hill and then down to the Pinrock pump station. So being the time it was that night, it was, 9 o'clock or after, we contacted RH White Construction. We have an emergency number for them, and they informed us that they'd be able to mobilize first thing in the morning. They wouldn't be able to put a crew together, at that time. By the time they started work, it would have been after midnight. By the time they got there, we would have had to contact septic haulers, shut the pump station down. So doing that type of work is much better in daylight. So the next morning, we were ready to go. First thing in the morning, we made calls to septic haulers, and we ended up with either 11 or 12, I think was the final count. 13 last, and we had 2 working at the actual the site of the break as well, and then the rest of them were handling the flow from the station once we shut the pump station down. And they worked through the day. The repair was completed right around 5 p.m. What it ended up to be was a stress crack at the bottom of the pipe, and once we started excavation, it was like a pressure hose, just the gravity. Once the station was shut down, we have the gravity. It's 180 feet of head pressure, which gives you about 77 pounds of pressure in the, in the pipe. So, and I think it was like 6,800, 7,000 gallons, that was coming back. So what it did is once we started digging, it undermined, so we didn't have to dig under the pipe anymore. So we were excavating that out, and then once the flow stopped, the pipe drained, we were able to make the repair, like I said, right around 5 o'clock. And the amount of the wastewater that was spilling out in the very beginning was in a, it was captured in a drainage area right there, so it didn't go downstream anywhere, and we were able to clean it up and treat the area. So this was one of the, I'll say, easier ones, I should say, easier and quicker. We were able to do it during the daylight hours, and it went pretty smooth. So this being the second one in this fiscal year, this is the letter, the memo stated it's going to put us further in deficit. We're already in a deficit of 140,000 plus for the Upland Street break that we had back in October. So this one, the memo stated 40 to 60,000. It should be on the lower end, in the $40,000 range. There shouldn't be any unforeseen additional charges, so we should be somewhere even less than the 40,000, hopefully.
So the request is simply just to spend in excess of the appropriation without a figure attached to it?
That's correct, because I don't have hard figures.
Okay.
I haven't been invoiced for anything yet.
Okay. Mr. Coyle, did you want to add anything before I move on to board members?
Just briefly, that the Holstrom Court pump station pumps about 1 million gallons per day, and so to shut this station down to do the work is something that you have to be planning for very carefully, because even during the 1 hour time frame, you're probably looking at 50 to 60,000 gallons. So having the 13 pump trucks, we can't move forward until these trucks arrive, and we try to contact them as quickly as we could. We were fortunate to get as many trucks out there as soon as possible, and we were also very fortunate that this line was only 5 feet below grade. So as Jeff had indicated, as far as the sewer main break, it went probably as smooth as it could, and we were able to contain the majority of the spill, and then we pumped out that material after it had been contained. It was approximately 12,000 gallons that we then utilized the trucks once the main was repaired to then basically remove that effluent that had flowed out as well.
Great, thank you.
And I'm sorry, just one further thing. We also, Mr. Mitchell notified DEP, so they were notified, and I also emailed the Conservation Commission Chair, and the Water Department obviously was very involved as well.
Thank you. Mr. Holstrom.
Through the chair, what will it cost you guys to get a crystal ball? The reason I asked that question is it sounds like Upland Street has been a problem. You got that one repaired. You got Southbridge Street Court repaired. One was definitely the acid laid away the pipe on Upland Street. This one now is a stress crack. Can you identify any other areas around the town where you would suspect that? I know there's miles and miles of pipe, and I don't expect you to go around and check every one of them, but is there any way that you can foresee a problem just by the design of that pipe and how it works?
The problem being is the force mains are at about 139% of their life expectancy, so they're, 30 years, so they're, 40-plus years old right now. But, there are in other communities, there's pipes that have been in the ground for 100 years, and they've never had, an ounce of problems with them. It's not, I don't foresee a catastrophic failure of, like the entire system all of a sudden is just going to collapse on us and
Right.
I honestly think that this situation and, with this type of situation, we put a collar on it in order to do the repair. We didn't actually cut a piece of pipe out because of the nature of the break. When we've had issues down at the force main from the Sword Street pump station, we've actually taken pieces of the pipe out where we could look inside and see what the problem was. And at those situations, there was actually a dent in the pipe. So that may have been, a mishandling of the pipe during installation.
Okay.
Rather than using a fork truck and lifting it off, they may have rolled it off the truck and it may have, hit another pipe or hit a rock and dented it. Because what that is, it's a concrete lined ductile iron pipe. And the concrete takes the wear away from the steel. So once you break the concrete, now you're wearing, on or rotting away or, eroding the steel part of the ductile iron pipe. So that's what we've seen at Sword Street, the few breaks that we've had there, and I'm kind of leaning in that direction for this one as well. But as far as to answer your question, we did increase our capital this year, going into effect July 1st, an additional 100,000. We've always had 50, we've carried, well, actually, we started carrying, I think it was 25 or 30, we went to 50, and now we're at 150,000 for sewer line repair. What we're doing is we're using that money to investigate and to come up with a plan to look into, better crystal ball, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
If I could add, ideally, we would like to start lining the system once we can identify the areas that have the most problems or potential for breakage. So we'll begin lining them, and it'd be much less costly repair than total replacement. So I think, as Jeff indicated, we have 150,000 in each one of the, I think in the CIP, or is it?
Yeah, in the CIP.
CIP for each year for the next 5 years. And so,
But the only difference between the gravity lines and the force main line, well, the pressure lines, is the gravity lines, there's a manhole or an entry point to the pipe every 300 feet, maximum 310, 320. So that's easier to pick a section, and run a liner, reline that section. Whereas the force main, there's no manholes because it's under pressure all the time. So in order to make a repair or to reline that pipe, is you have to excavate it, you have to cut it out, you got to put a valve in, put your liner in, and then put it back together again. So you don't have a continuous new liner, per se. You know what I mean? It's not like, we can start at point A and go all the way to point B and have one nice, long, new liner.
We'd love to have that.
There's just no technology there for that.
in this
yet,
particular break, I think the break was 1 to 2 inch diameter. It was a very small hole. But because it was under pressure, had it been a gravity line, we may not even known that it existed, but.
Mr. Holstrom?
Just a follow-up question. Through the chairman to the town manager, Julie, I know that we had spoken with the school department on a SPED, a special education program where we put money away, and if it was expended, we could add to it or subtract to it. There would be a funding mechanism to put that through. Is that something we could do with the sewer department? It sounds like you're talking, $120,000, $150,000 for, a major repair. You've got you've got trucks hauling, and you've got people coming into work to do the repairs. $150,000 doesn't sound like it's going to go very far. So I don't know if there's can you look at that funding or financing?
The only issue with that, if I may, Ken, is that the sewer department is 100% enterprise, which means we generate our own revenues. There's nothing saying that we couldn't get a subsidy from the town.
Okay.
But in the past, that's never happened. We've gone out for our own bond, as part of the town bond, and then we pay our amount of whatever the borrowings would be. So what we plan on using the 150,000, or actually probably closer to the 100 additional thousand that we put in the budget, is the investigative portion of it. We're hoping to, to check the new technology as far as the force mains go, to see what we can get. I got a price of it was called a smart ball, where basically you let the pump take it down the pipe, and it's like a sonar type of thing, and it sends out all kinds of signals and whatever. For a half a mile of pipe, it was $250,000.
Wow.
For this one test. So obviously, we backed up a little bit and said, well, we see if we can find something maybe a little bit cheaper. But I don't know, technology is changing all the time. I mean, you see that in your phones, your computers, and everything. So, across the industry, everything is changing all the time. It's as far as the gravity lines, it's simple. We put a camera in, we drop it down a manhole, and it pops up the next manhole. And we have a nice video, we can take a picture of it. But like I said, with the force main, that's nearly impossible to do because there's no breaks in the pipe.
Well, I guess I just think I'm thinking out loud, because it sounds like, funding for breaks. If you have another major break, you're going to be deficit spending again.
Oh, no,
and it's going to be just that much more that we're going to be, into for repairs. So I didn't know if there was, I understand you are an enterprise fund, you are pretty much self-subsidized, but I want to be sure that, is there any way that we could help, one way or another to, make it a little bit less of a burden?
I mean, I can't see how the town could really put any money away. I mean, the only thing that we would look for is the authorization for, the bond.
To go with deficit spending again.
Well, the borrowing,
Okay.
you know what I mean, for the repair, to be proactive rather than reactive. Okay. That's what I'm saying.
And through
Thank
the
you.
chair, it also goes through the CIP plan.
Okay.
So when we're in the CIP, that's when we have discussions about what the future needs would be. And then the funding source is different. As Jeff said, they have retained earnings, they're an enterprise fund, so the funding source is different. But it's still something that you plan for in your CIP.
Yeah. I mean, that's something, like you had mentioned, the manager mentioned that through CIP, that through this investigative process, we may put an extra line in our capital, X amount of dollars per year for repairs.
Right.
Once we start the investigation process and we come back with some type of reporting, we'll have a better idea on the budget.
Because it's one of those services that we all expect and we're paying for, but want to be sure that, we don't get hit too hard.
Unfortunately, the feds, they don't have the money that, we used to get the SRF money, which at one point was free money.
Sure.
And then it went to a 0% loan, and then now our rates are just as good as the SRF rate, so it's not even worth doing that exercise right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anything else? Anything else? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the spending in excess of the appropriation for the sewer main break on Southbridge Street Court in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 31.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I believe that you have nothing else on the agenda.
I don't believe so.
Mr. Quad? You have one more that you can
I'll give you a report, a final
Great,
dollar
thank you.
report once it's- I get-
And thank you for the work that you do in these
Thank you.
emergency situations. So I will now entertain a motion, since Mr. Coyle is still at the table with us, to move up Town Manager Item 6A, an update by DPW Director on Southbridge Street traffic safety issues.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Coyle?
Thank you.
Thank you. This was an issue that was brought up at one of our meetings, so you're going to give us an update on, well, go ahead.
Yes,
Tell us
this-
what section of Southbridge Street we're
This
referring
is
to.
Southbridge Street, between the Worcester line, actually, mainly what the concern was between the Worcester line, Jerome, and Elmwood, and specifically between probably Jerome and Elmwood along Route 12. A resident had come before the board a few months back and had some concerns relative to speeding, passing, turning lanes in and out of the industrial park at Polar Beverage, and just in general, just overall concerns about how traffic was flowing in that area. After that meeting, I'd made contact with Mass DOT and spoke with the district traffic engineer and expressed some of the concerns and to see if there was anything that could potentially be done, because it is a state highway and is not under town control or town jurisdiction. And at that time, the discussion involved mainly some additional signage, potentially pavement marking changes when the time was appropriate. And that we had talked about when that might be, and it was indicated when we resurfaced the roadway, we'd look at potentially restriping for no passing zones. Just 2-3 weeks ago, I received a phone call from Mass DOT indicating that because near the end of the fiscal year, they had funding available, approximately between $1 and $1.5 million available for work on a state highway, and they had selected Route 12 in Auburn to move forward with the project, which we were very happy to hear. The road was definitely in need of improvement, but that became now time to let's talk about a discussion from several weeks earlier. So the traffic engineer did agree that we would restripe, meaning Mass DOT, the entire stretch as no passing, which I thought was very good, because quite often they can push back a little because they want to make sure they leave some areas where it's also safe to pass. But I think they felt, because of the development in the area, that they were comfortable restriping this entire section that they're going to be paving as a no passing zone. So all the way from the Worcester line to Drury Square will be striped as no passing. So that was one of the important things or concerns that had been brought up. The turning lanes, I think there was a request by the resident to have turning lanes into the industrial park at Polar Beverage. In discussions with Mass Highway, they didn't feel that first of all, the width of the roadway would accommodate turning lanes, and I don't think they felt that there was an action history to warrant the turning lanes. So instead, they did install signage warning motoring public that there are trucks entering ahead. Signs have been installed in both directions on Route 12 prior to that intersection. However, what they did agree to do, which is part of a study that was done by Central Mass Regional Planning, I believe it was completed this fall, which recommended a turning lane into Sword Street on Route 12 heading northbound. So they will be implementing that recommendation, which again was made by Central Mass Regional Planning. So although it's not a turning lane into the industrial park, but it is a needed turning lane onto Sword Street. Relative to speed limit signs, that's something that when Mass DOT sets a speed limit, as we've talked about before, they have very specific guidelines on how they determine that speed limit. And I think the resident had indicated that it was a thickly settled area. And when I went out there to review the location, what's marked or signed as thickly settled is actually in the city of Worcester. So Route 12 is I believe that section is city maintained and controlled, it's not state highway. Becomes a state highway when you enter Auburn. So Worcester has identified that section by just to the north of Hope Avenue as thickly settled. I don't recall seeing a 30-mile-an-hour posted yellow sign, but that would be the the default speed limit for the thickly settled area. But once you get into Auburn, where it changes to State Highway, at that location, it turns to 40 miles per hour, although they currently don't have a speed limit sign, and I advised their traffic engineer that there's no sign there. And then when you get just past Elmwood Street, it then goes to 45 miles per hour. So going in the opposite direction, when you're in Auburn, just past Town Fair Tire, there's a small section at Harrison Avenue where there's a 20-mile-an-hour warning sign for a speed limit, and then beyond that, it's 45 miles per hour the entire stretch. So it's 45 all the way just south of Elmwood, and then that stretch between Elmwood and Worcester is 40. And I know the resident had discussions with Mass DOT as well. I think spoke with some of the same people that I was talking with, and I think she felt comfortable that with the no passing zone, hoping that this would be a significant improvement. And I think they did feel as though they would revisit the speeding issue at a later date if this didn't help. I think that I'm not sure what they would be able to do, because the speed limits are dictated largely in part by the motoring public, based on the 85th percentile of the general public operating at a presumed safe and reasonable speed. So if they did a speed study and it came back to the 85th percentile, or 85% of the drivers were driving 50, then they could potentially come back and say, we need to change the speed limit to 50. So they don't typically artificially lower a speed limit. So I don't know if that will really change. There would have to be certain other factors that would have to play into that to change the speed limit. But I think the resident was happy to see that there are changes being made, and that her concerns were heard, and I think felt probably happy that it led to some of the things that she sees that's going to happen after it's paved.
Great. So first of all, thank you for your work on this. I know that the resident has been been before this board a few times, has been in communications with you frequently, so I just want to confirm that she's been updated with this information.
She has, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do board members have anything on this?
Nothing.
Thank you. This has been an ongoing concern, so thank you for working with Mass DOT to address some of those concerns.
Very welcome. Thank you.
And you have nothing else before us tonight, right? Okay. So I'm trying to look in the audience and see who we have here. So I would suggest next that we look at agenda, Board of Selectmen items. Let me just see here. F1, which would be board and commission reappointments. I see the chairman of the Finance Committee, Mr. Cussy, is here. I'm guessing that he may be here for that. So is there a motion to move up agenda item F1?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. So F1 is a request for Finance Committee reappointments. Kimberly Holstrom, Edward Coleman, and Mallory O'Brien have advised that they would like to be reappointed to the Finance Committee for terms expiring June 30th, 2021. There are no additional applications. Do members have any questions?
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Ms. Holstrom as an at-large member, Mr. Coleman for Precinct 3, and Ms. O'Brien for Precinct 4, for a term expiring June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Mr. Hussey, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do. I happen to catch those in replay often, and you guys do yeoman's work, so thank you for what you do. I see Mrs. Coyle is here. Is there something that we need to move up for Mrs. Coyle?
I'm sorry, gift acceptance? Yes, the donation.
Okay.
H1.
Is there a motion to move up agenda item H1 under gift acceptance in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, a donation to the Department of Developmental and Inspectional Services?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Coyle, good evening.
Good evening.
So,
Thank you for having me.
of course, let's just get our paperwork out here, since I've been jumping around. So this is Independence Day. Bear with me. This is the household hazardous waste collection. Okay, go ahead, tell us about this.
So the town offers a household hazardous waste collection every 2 years, and we are excited that this is our year that we're having it. So it is scheduled for Saturday, July 28th, from 9 to 12, and we have been fortunate enough to have the event held at the FMC, the Horgan Ice Arena, right across from the police station, as in years past. This is a free event and open to Town of Auburn residents only. We have a lot of people that help us and volunteer on that day, namely the CERT team and led by Tony Pellegrino. We couldn't do it without them. They do an awesome job. They help direct traffic. They help keep people moving and getting them to the right areas to drop off the different forms of waste. So we do have a waste collection for hazardous waste. We also have a charitable organization, the Masons, that will be there, and they will be collecting electronics. Additionally to that, we have propane tanks from Osterman Gas, battery collection, Central Mass Mosquito Control collects tires. So there's a lot of really good things that we're able to have people bring. This is something that a lot of people attend, so we always expect a big turnout. And as in years past, we try to get the word out any way we can. So you'll see this on the electronic board in coming weeks. Starting beginning of July, we'll have it on the LCAC. It's on the website and so forth. And then we'll also put out some social media posts for people to get the information anyway. But we recognize that this is a big event, and we have been very fortunate with the Auburn Water District donating to this event for as long as I've been doing it. Before you have a very generous donation from the Auburn Water District, and just wanted to publicly thank them for this donation. They don't have to do it, but they recognize that everything that we have collected there for hazardous waste stays out of the environment and thus protects the water supply.
Excellent. I know you talked about advertising on social media and stuff. Where can residents find a list of specific items that they can bring? Because I know you've been before us and we talk about it. People think, latex paint, and that's not hazardous. You tell them how to dispose of it. So where can they find, will it be on the town's website, on the town's Facebook page, specific items? Excellent, thank you. Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
The motion that we accept with gratitude and that a letter be prepared for the chair's signature.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. And thank you for the work you do on
Thank
this.
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Benoit is still here, which I think I missed an item that he had while he was up at the table with us. So let me just find that item. I would entertain a motion to move up agenda item 5D, the vote to execute the easement deed authorized by Article 25 of town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is now moved up. Mr. Benoit, in case members have any question, I'll have the town manager tell us what this is about.
Through the chair, as you know, Article 25 of the town meeting was approved to provide an easement to the Greater Worcester Land Trust to access property at the Granger Cliffs through a very, very small sliver of land on town land. That easement is about 220 feet by 20 feet, and that did approve by town meeting. So the next step is that the board needs to take a vote to specifically to authorize the easement deed, which provides this easement to the Greater Worcester Land Trust. And upon that vote of the board, I have before you here an original document, which is the actual deed, that each of you then needs to sign this evening.
Are there any questions regarding this? I know it was discussed at town meeting. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we vote to execute the easement deed authorized by Article 25 of town meeting on May 1st, 2018 for the Greater Worcester Land Trust.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do you need us to sign that now?
Yes, do you want the whole thing or just the signature page?
Or you can pass the whole thing down.
So the signature page is on the second page.
So this is the entire document?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So go back to
Go to this one, it's next one, just in case there's any further discussion.
Yep. I was going back to the agenda, and that is the next
It
item.
is, so that one's out.
Keep everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will go back to the agenda and go back to the items we haven't addressed. So we have, under communications, a correspondence from Senator Michael Moore and Representative Frost regarding the petition that we just discussed. Dear Board of Selectmen, we are writing to share that an act authorizing the town of Auburn to relocate Faith Avenue and convey remnant parcels of real property that was filed with the House Clerk this week as House Docket 4857. The legislation was filed pursuant to an official request from the town during the annual town meeting vote on Article 30 taken on May 1st, 2018. For your records, please find a copy of the pending legislation enclosed. Our offices will be sure to keep you apprised of the bill status as it moves through the legislative process. Please do not hesitate to contact any of our offices if you have either of our offices if you have questions, or if you may be in need of any other assistance to you or the residents of Auburn. It's signed by Representative Frost and Senator Moore. Do members have any questions or comments on this? Okay. Moving on, we've handled Board of Selectmen A. Board of Selectmen B, a discussion on the process to replace vacant seat on the Library Board of Trustees, enclosed is a letter from the Chairman of the Board of Library Trustees. We do have a letter, and as you know, there is a vacancy on the Library Board of Trustees. The trustees have met and are requesting that we use the old policy that people feel uncomfortable coming in before the Board of Selectmen. So I will open it up to discussion. Mr. Holstrom?
Yeah, I guess through you to the town manager. Julie, has anybody even verbally voiced some interest in coming forward for this position?
No, at this point, we have not received any verbal interest or any applications submitted.
Okay.
We did start advertising, I believe, last week, and the
Right.
deadline is June 18th.
And have you been in contact with the trustees? Has anybody even approached them and asked them anything about it?
I have been in touch with the chair, and I do not believe that they've had any interest, although the applications are directed to come to to our office.
Okay.
So even if they had a discussion, we don't have any applications as of today.
Okay. Just as a follow-up, I know that back in 2017, we as a board voted to have that application process change and involve the Board of Selectmen. We don't know too much about what the trustees of the library do, and it would be up to them to take a look at it closely and make a recommendation to the town manager to go forward with that. Do you feel this could be a detriment that, you know, we could correct by just making a motion to go back to the original process and let the trustees handle it and make a recommendation to you?
Through the chair, I know the trustee, speaking with Mr. Toth, who is the chairman, has indicated to me that he had spoken to a couple of the candidates for the vacant seat back in 2017 who went through the process, who said it was very uncomfortable. And both he and other members of the Board of Trustees feel that it's probably a deterrent to getting applicants to come in with this, and to come in and apply for this, understanding that under Mass General Law, it still would be required to have a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Trustees to appoint a person to the seat until next May. So the Board of Selectmen would still have a vote on that candidate, but in the past, the Board of Trustees had vetted the candidates in an open meeting at the library, but my understanding is it's less intimidating there. It's not televised, it's a smaller room. The candidates felt a little bit more comfortable speaking, and then the Board of Trustees would recommend to you their choice candidate, and then jointly you would all vote. And that's assuming, we're hoping to do that on June 23rd, but I'm not sure, I'm sorry, June 25th. Right? It will all depend if we get candidates by then. But maybe if the process is changed this evening, we can put out another notification tomorrow, and we can say that the process has been changed, that applications would go to the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees would therefore hold the interviews. And that might stimulate some additional interest.
Okay. So I think you basically clarified it just on Mr. Holstrom's comment. The recommendation would come to the Board of Selectmen, not the town manager. It would come to the Board of Selectmen. We would schedule the joint meeting and make the appointment jointly with the library trustees. And, I wanted to check with Sharon just to make sure that I was correct, but I didn't support it at the time. I would like to see the library trustees vetting these candidates. It's a different seat. It's a different role that they play. They're not involved with, say, like the school committee where they handle budget issues. It's more policy and recommendations, so I would support going to the old policy, because certainly, I'll go right with them. People are intimidated coming before the board, and I think it's more important that we have applicants to fill these seats.
Yeah, I'm absolutely opposed to doing this. It's a public office. We interview every other candidate for every office. Any time we have a joint appointment, it is done in a public, open session with the board. This Board of Trustees is no less important than any other board that we appoint or that we sit and help to fill the vacancy. We had 3 applicants last time, 2 of which did admit that they had not used the library in a long time. So I don't understand how we could be uncomfortable with a public process, because everything we do is supposed to be in public and open to view from the people who put us here. So I will not support going back to a policy that I think treats other boards differently than this board, which I do not consider to be any less important or necessary as the boards that we appoint or we assist when other boards have a vacancy. And I would also point out that I don't think the Board of Selectmen should be told who is the candidate that the Board of Trustees wants, and then we wouldn't allow any other committee to tell us who they want to put on their committee. I think it's a very slippery slope. I think it's a very dangerous precedent to set. But with that, it's up to the board what they wish to do.
Mr. Holstrom.
I do echo Mr. Carpenter's importance of the Library Board of Trustees. However, they are elected, they are not appointed, and they do not come under the auspices of appointment through the town manager as per the charter. So they are elected officials, and they are a department in itself, and I believe that we should go back to the original policy of allowing the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees which have open meetings. They are not closed door by any manner of means, and they know exactly what kind of people they want, what kind of duties they will fulfill, and I think that being an open board, an open meeting, I think that the vacancies being filled will be properly taken care of by the proper interview process, and I would make the motion that we go back to the original process of going through the Board of Trustees and allowing them to make a decision and make a recommendation to us.
Is there a second? There's a motion on the table.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, we're under discussion. Mr. Berthium, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I understand both sides of it, Mr. Carpenter's argument and Mr. Holstrom's. I just kind of feel like we would be, if we don't go back to the old, I kind of feel, I don't want to micromanage this town, and I kind of feel like that's a bit of a micromanagement. So if I want to go and sit in on that meeting and having, a public comment there, or if I want to not accept the candidate when it comes here and send the board back to get another candidate, I think that's enough for us as a board. So I personally will support going back to the old way, because I just feel like it's a little bit of a micromanagement if we don't.
Interesting.
Mr. Carpenter?
Then I would suggest the next time we have a member of the school board that we do the same thing. If we're going to treat the trustees differently than any other board that we do, and this is about consistency, I'm not a micromanager, and I know that's what I always get accused of because I care about what I do. So whether we agree or we disagree, that's fine, but I hardly think that Mass General Law, which has authorized this board to be co-equal, is micromanaging a process. So I take somewhat offense at that comment, because every other process that we go through, we don't give that same deference to the school committee. So why are we giving it to the Board of Trustees? We made those very people come before a joint committee. They were interviewed on TV, just like everybody else, and they were subject to the same vote, just like anybody else. But there was no pre-vetting, there was nothing. To me, to have a board tell you who they want defeats the whole purpose of why Mass General Law set it up so that the Board of Selectmen had this vote. As a person who was elected to the planning board, and if there was a vacancy, there would be 4 of us versus 5 members of the Board of Selectmen. They have 6 trustees. They now have 5 votes. We have 5 votes. We don't have a numerical advantage under this proposal like we do under virtually any other situation. So I have been on another elected board, as some others on the board have as well. So I would have been faced with the same thing. But I would not presume to tell the Board of Selectmen who I want on the planning board just because, hey, I've been on there for, I was elected to 3 terms. That doesn't make me an expert on, and I don't think boards should be telling us who they want to be on their committees. I think it should be an open process on TV, just like every other process we do. But that's why I mentioned it when we had this problem a couple of years ago.
So I just want to comment on my views on the difference between the library trustees and the school committee. The school committee makes recommendations on the budget, which is 50% of our annual budget. The recommendations for the library come through the department head or division head, which is the library director. My concern is, again, that we will not have applicants to serve on this board. Libraries play an important role, and I want to see an active and board. As Mr. Berthium said, if the library trustees bring forth a candidate, that this board isn't comfortable with, we can reject that candidate and ask them to bring another candidate forward. I will be consistent in my vote. I voted no to the process last time, and I will vote no to that process tonight. Mr. Berthium, did you have something else?
No, I'm going to leave it alone. Thank you.
Is there anything else? So we have a motion to allow the library trustees to interview candidates and bring a recommendation to the board at a joint meeting. Is the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
It's 3-1, Sharon. Thank you. So we've taken care of, I'm just going to go through these carefully because we jumped around. We've gone through agenda item C, D, E. Board of Commission reappointments, we've taken care of Finance Committee. We're on agenda item F2, Zoning Board of Appeals. Richard Cussy and Robert Tatro have advised that they would like to be reappointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals for terms expiring June 30th, 2021. There are no additional applications. Is there any discussion or comment on this?
I'll make a motion, we reappoint Mr. Cussy and Mr. Tatro to the ZBA for terms expiring June 30th of 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is a vote. Ms. Jacobson, I just want to check on this. Am I correct that we still have an associate available on the Zoning Board of Appeals?
That is correct. And actually, this afternoon, an application came in for the associate.
Okay.
That we haven't vetted yet, as far as just making sure that they're a registered voter, et cetera. To even, there was no way to get it to you for tonight. It just came in today.
Okay.
But it looks like we may have an applicant for that associate seat.
Okay, because I have watched meetings, and I know that the associate has stepped in
Correct.
for votes, and not that it's our appointment, but just because I've watched them recently as well, and there was an issue with a quorum. We still have an opening on the planning board for an associate, so I'd just like to say that, so if anyone's interested in any of these positions.
Yeah, we have received, I think, 4 applications
Okay,
so far for
so you're
that.
working on it. Okay, thank you. So moving on, we have the School Buildings Committee. Mr. William Westerland Senior and Kara Westman Murray have advised that they would like to be reappointed to the School Buildings Committee. There are no additional applications.
Make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Westerland and Ms. Westerman Murray to terms expiring June 30th, 2021 to the School Buildings Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. And finally, under appointments, we have the Board of Registrars. Deborah Nurse has agreed to be reappointed to the Board of Registrars. This is the 3 registrars with their
I
specific
make a
criteria.
motion, we reappoint Ms. Nurse for a term expiring June 30th, 2021 to the Board of Registrars.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. The next item is a discussion and vote on the 2018 summer meeting schedule. As we've done in the past, we've generally held 1 meeting in the month of July, 1 meeting in the month of August, because not a lot of stuff comes in, not a lot of applications. Certainly, if we were to vote to hold 1 meeting in July and 1 meeting in August, if there were something to come up, then we would ask board members to meet to address that. We're certainly going to fulfill our duties as selectmen, but, in discussions with Sharon, not a lot of applications or things that need our attention come up. The month of July has 5 meetings. I know generally we meet on the 2nd, 4th, and 5th, but it's just my thought that, rather than trying to meet on the 2nd and 4th, the 16th is smack dab in the middle of the month. I don't know how members feel about changing the schedule that much, but it would be, July would be, the 16th would be the 3rd Monday, but it would also be smack dab in the middle of the month. If anything came in, we could address it. Mr. Berthium?
I would not be here.
Yeah, it's fine with me. Again, with Mr. Berthium not being able to be here, and Mr. Carpenter and yourself. I don't know what Mr. Liberty's idea is and what he's able to do. So we do have one more meeting for this month, and I think probably to bring that back. We can kick it around a little bit about those dates, and then we can bring it back to our next meeting and see what kind of availability people have.
Okay, so we can ask Sharon to send out an email
Please.
and not to respond. And so then in August, just to finish up on this, it is a 4-month schedule, so our meetings would be on the 13th or the 27th. So if members chose, I don't know what their schedules are, but we would be looking at holding one meeting either on the 13th or the 27th in August, and we can bring that back, but those would be the recommendations, to hold it on the 13th or the 27th. So Sharon will send an email out regarding, and ask members not to reply. That would be a violation of open meeting law. Moving on to gift acceptance. Let's go back to that. We have to the Town of Auburn in the amount of $1,000 from the William Reisner Foundation for the Independence Day celebration.
Make a motion, we accept with gratitude, and then a letter be prepared for the chair's signature.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Did you want to comment on that at all?
We want to thank the William Reisner Foundation. They have contributed for the last couple of years to the Independence Day celebration, and it really is a huge help to help us offset our costs for this great event.
Great, thank you. And next we have from Polar Beverages in the amount of $2,500, and this is specifically for the summer concert series.
Motion to accept with gratitude, and then a letter be prepared for the chair's signature.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
this
for the
is-
chair, again, just we're grateful to Polar Beverages for the support of this summer concert series. You did, just as a reminder, you did accept some donations previously for one of the concerts. This is for the whole concert series. So again, it really helps to offset the town's costs. These are great series. And just a reminder that the series runs from, I think, the third week in June to the end of August, every Thursday evening.
With a rain date of?
With a rain date of the following Tuesday that we hope we don't need again. But yes, every week it's a Thursday evening unless it rains, in which case it automatically bumps to the following Tuesday. And while we're on this, I should mention that the Independence Day celebration, again, is July 1st. It's a Sunday with a rain date of Monday, July 2nd. And again, hopefully we don't need the rain date, but those are the dates.
Great, thank you. Moving on, we have no proclamations or recognitions under town manager items. We have, we've taken care of A. Under B, we have a request to declare surplus property. Mrs. Jacobson.
Through the chair, the director of the senior center has submitted a letter. There are 12 metal card tables there that are really not able to even be reused by any department. They're not safe. They're very wobbly, and we're requesting to dispose of them as surplus property. If we can get any type of scrap value for them, we will, and if not, they would just have to be disposed of.
I make a motion, we have the 12 metal card tables from the senior center, their request to have it declared surplus property.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Do you have anything else, Mrs. Jacobson?
Through the chair, I just want to thank FASCA. They had a very nice ice cream social today at the senior center, and they're getting much more active, and they
Excellent.
have a number of things that are planned coming up in the future to help support the senior center. So we want to thank them. They're doing a great job.
Excellent. Good news. Moving on to tabled items. The first three items fall under policies. I know we had the subcommittee working on them, and we had mentioned, I don't know if the subcommittee has met, if they want to continue serving. We've got, even though we have the same members, we've reorganized. If the members want to continue serving on the subcommittee and addressing these, if there are any comments on any of the items. I know that we had talked about the proclamation policy and recommendations, the revision of the recognition policy, which, correct me if I'm wrong, we had talked about having in September, which...
I don't think we agreed to any time, but at this point where it takes a long time to plan these things, so if we can't get a policy in place, I don't know how we can hold an event.
Okay.
The other cases too, that we also want to have a full board here to discuss that and vote one way or another on
Okay,
that.
so where do we stand with the subcommittee? Have you met? Do you want to continue meeting? Should we appoint new members? What is the status of the subcommittee, and what do
I'll
you...
continue with the draft code of conduct. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, we just
Well-
need to get together.
Yeah, well, so these are items that were sent to the subcommittee, so it would be all three of them, and you can bring a recommendation back.
Okay?
And then we can have further discussion. So do you think that you might meet before the next meeting, just to bring us something?
Would like to.
Okay.
Like to, yes.
All righty, thank you. And the proposed plastic bag ban, I know there was discussion that we wanted to take some action on this. Anyone's, of course, always welcome to make a motion, but Mr. La Liberty is not here tonight, and this is his item. So in fairness to him, I would prefer to hold it, but I don't know how other members feel.
Make a motion, we hold it.
Okay, so it will...
Second.
Any discussion?
I just had a quick suggestion that we perhaps plan on holding a hearing in, say, September, so that we can get this off of, we can actually take some action on it. It's been held for a while. I know the legislature is...
I'll amend my motion for that, and we can do it, our second meeting in September? I don't know what the-
So there's a motion to hold a hearing, the second meeting in September.
If I could finish my thought.
Just, is there a second, and then there may be another?
Did you second it? I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Carpenter, under discussion?
Yeah, the chamber made a offer at our March meeting with it about assisting with additional opportunities for recycling. So I don't know if it would be appropriate to send a letter, if we could do that under this item, or if it should wait till next meeting. But it would be nice before that meeting for them to flesh out exactly what it is that they can or are able to do to assist us, so that we have a full range of options before the board and the public before September.
So we can send them that letter? Okay.
And just so I'm
That's how
clear, so
manager
you're
just-
talking about the meeting on Monday, September 24th?
September 24th? I think it'll be early enough, and, after the summer break, that there won't be a lot of things going on. We could probably have a hearing, and it probably won't take a lot of time to do that anyway, but Mr. Carpenter's right that we should get moving on this,
Okay.
have some direction.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Through the chair, if I may, just make a comment on that date. If this indeed is something that the board ultimately decides to move forward as a warrant article, September 24th is too late to get it on the warrant, because we need to back up, excuse me, the dates for getting it on the warrant, unless the board put a placeholder prior to taking a vote to put it on the warrant. Because generally, the fall town meeting is in October, and right now, we have tentatively thought that we would hold October 23rd for that. We can't set it yet because we have to wait for our free cash certification, which generally comes in September. But that is the date that it would normally fall on that week, so that was what we were thinking of. So to have the public hearing 4 weeks before the actual town meeting, the warrant needs to be mailed out at least 2 weeks before. Generally, we do it 3. It would be pretty tight.
So right before you mentioned this, I called the vote, and the vote was the affirmative to hold a meeting on September 24th, a public hearing. So if, based on what Mrs. Jacobson said, we can either hold the meeting on September 24th, otherwise I would need a motion to reconsider the motion.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
So we're reconsidering the motion. What you can do is reconsider the motion to another date.
September 10, would that be sufficient?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
So the recommendation is to hold a public hearing for the plastic bag ban on September 10th. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Are there any Board of Selectmen member items we had not submitted? There's no additional public comment. We have the minutes of April 9th, 2018. Does anyone notice any corrections or omissions? Seeing none, the chair will accept them as written. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. There's a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.